let's talk about it.
Hello and welcome back to Thicc Radio, the award-winning podcast where we talk about gaming, feedism, and everything in their orbit. I'm James.
And I'm Tim, so let's get into it. Today we're welcoming to the show. Today we got for the first time, Toño.
Hello. Okay, awards. Where's the shelf? Where's the shelf that y'all keep the awards on?
I mean, I keep her.
I have mine up.
Yes.
Right next. Do you know, I'm sorry to take time out of our important podcast topic today to talk about me and my award and what we've done. But before any of this award malark that went on, I think there's that idea of like, you win an award. You put it where you put it and like, it's fine. But no, the moment I held this solid piece of glass crystal in my hands, I knew that nothing was more important to me than celebrating it every chance I got. So, to the viewers who don't exist, because you're all listeners and you can't see this, but I'm holding up my trophy, and she's beautiful, and I love it.
I'm viewing it. It's a very nice sight. It is award season, so I feel like talking about the awards is, we gotta.
Well, on that point of award season, because we are talking about sort of like that intersection of, because you're a musical artist, and we're talking about that intersection of size and efficacy and all of those moments. Let's kick that off with a chat about awards. Like, do you feel like there is recognition for plus size musical artists, or do you think that's like something we're still working towards?
I definitely think that it's something we could always be working towards. We could always, better our inclusivity. I feel like in recent years, we've gotten some recognition for the thick guys and gals, but I do think it's definitely lacking a little bit still.
Isn't there that jelly roll guy that I keep seeing all over the place? Isn't he something?
Heard of him? I feel like I might be getting him confused with a different thick dude artist, but I remember one particular artist going from rap to country. Is that
maybe
Jelly Roll?
that's it? I honestly have not listened to any of his music, so I just keep seeing him everywhere. Like, he keeps showing up on magazine covers and on talk shows, and I think he was on a pundit show for some reason about something. His political leanings are part of the reason why I probably haven't watched him.
I mean, there are people that come to mind for me. Like, I know that there is the bear rapper Chris Conda. Of course, there's people like Big Daddy Carsten. I know there's Bryce Quartz who does stuff. And there's DDM, Daddy Midas, I think. Oh gosh, I can't quite recall. But then there are other plus size people. The Thickens. You mentioned Jelly Roll, Rag and Bone Man, and Teddy Swims is another one that comes to mind for me. Just a lot of big Thickums gorgeousness out there. Listeners, if you have any recommendations for musical artists who are in the community that maybe we should be checking out, or plus-size artists that are having some success in the mainstream, write into us at thiccradio@gmail.com. Give us their names, their handles, and let's have a chat with them. But to bring it back to you, Toño, you are a musical artist. Tell us more about what that means. Like, what kind of lanes do you exist in? Is it like classic musician, singer, producer? Tell us about that.
Well, I mean, I always call myself like a hyper pop rapper. I've been listening to rap music since it started off very early in my development, where I would just only listen to parody music, which is not don't love that. It's not a flex. It's a sad fact. But a lot of those would be like rap parodies. And so throughout my life, I started from there, listening and then going off to listen to more artists like Nicki Minaj and, the whole like Young Money roster I was obsessed with for a while. So that really influenced, like my musical stylings of today. Couple that with the whole PC music scene, artists like Charlie XCX and Shy Girl. Like, I just love that super hyper pop soundscape, but I also love when artists or rappers specifically are able to kind of dance in that same space. You have people who like really pioneered that. People like Vince Staples is one artist that comes to mind, who kind of spearheaded like that kind of like weird rap sound movement by working with Sophie. So yeah, I mean, I also have like I have some piano training. I come from musical theater, so I think all of that just comes through in like the stage presence. You can definitely tell that I am a former theater kid, but not a Hamilton theater kid. That's not for me.
Oh my God. There was like a TikTok of someone like doing their best like Lin-Manuel Miranda impression. It was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I came all the way over here to see. And I was just like, this is fantastic. I mean, obviously awesome stuff to bring into the mainstream consciousness, the idea of a rap musical concept. Absolutely brilliant. But also very clearly currently going down the Tim Burton rabbit hole of I only do one thing, and I'm just going to continue to do that
Ooh,
one thing
that
until
part.
we have flogged that horse to death. For me at the moment, I'm really becoming obsessed with artists. Oh, what was her name? It's Becky Hill. Becky Hill, that's off the top of my head. I'm loving artists that have a lot of power, grunt, and soul behind their voice. So Becky Hill, Agnes, and even people like Dua Lipa have a lot of soul, like in those lower tones. I find quite pleasant. Sometimes I worry with a lot of pop. It's very you remember the Krish Vine where he's like, away, come to my kite chain.
We
We have
have bananas.
and the kindness, it's so just like, tell me you fucking, like, you don't have a hinge on your jaw, Even like Ariana Grande, like, I get it, whistle tones are impressive. They're not actually. Mariah's been doing them forever, and people have actually done them better than Mariah since then, but whatever. Like, I need consonants. I need verbiage, so listen, everyone's got their own musical taste, but I appreciate you bringing that in. Tim, what about you? Who are some of the musical artists that you really enjoy?
Are you talking about current? Because you know me, and I've always tried to introduce you to my music, and you hate it all. So, um,
But that's because I like talent, and it's this thing. You and I have a difference in taste, and well, what was her
I
name?
love a lot of 80s music because I was a kid in the 80s. That's what I grew up listening to in the car. So, like, a lot of 80s music is part of my standard repertoire. A lot of 90s music because, again, I was a kid. Like, and I gotta tell you, like 1999 was a friggin' year for music. Like they put out some like weird music, good music, crazy music. Like 99 was the year of like everything is being thrown at the wall. So like my personal favorite artists are people like Tori Amos, Ellie Goulding, the Goo Goo Dolls, Stevie Nicks, many bands from the 70s, many bands from the 60s. Like there's just there's too much for me to like list it quickly. So, but I have a very, very eclectic like music base, like everything from, I've on my iTunes account, I have everything from Britney Spears to Marilyn Manson to V&V Nation to Joy Electric to it just goes on and on.
So I love that you were sharing with us, a bit about how like like the music that you listen to and how that began to develop for you into what you love about music and how you've gotten into doing that now. Bringing it to the size of it all, like how much do aesthetics play into opportunities for you in terms of what you do, like venues you play, parties you might go to, artists you collaborate with?
Oh yeah. I mean, in terms of people I collaborate with, I feel like I really I try to collab with everybody. Everybody that wants to make music with me and wants to do it for free for each other. I always jump at the opportunity to. Not only do I just like love working with smaller artists, but I just really I like to kind of have this like network and community of other artists that I could pull from and kind of bring into the Tono cinematic universe. I mean, in terms of like things that I go to, I definitely I feel like I notoriously A, I don't go out unless getting paid, but also B, if I am going out, there better be free food or it's a fat event. I mean, I guess it also does kind of affect like who I also want to showcase with my art. There was a number that I used to do, and I don't really do live anymore, which is Dog Whistle. Dog Whistle remix by High Yellow featuring Estevan the God and me. And I would do I like came up with my own choreography for it. Came up with a little TikTok dance portion too, tried to get that going. But whenever I did do it live, one of the things that was like the most important to me was like I'd be able to showcase like, you know, thick and fat dancers behind me. Even if they couldn't really dance, I'm like just the fact that you are there and like performing with me just like means a lot to me and like the things that I'm trying to showcase. So in that sense, yeah, I think that has definitely influenced part of my act.
You know, and that's actually one of the next things I wanted to ask is about fitness, right? And I feel like there are so many areas where, like, when we talk about it on the podcast, like, we're talking about gaining, we're talking about fatness. Like, if you want to invoke fitness or physicality into what you do, that is absolutely your decision for you. We're not trying to take that away from nobody. But performance is a curious thing to me because the notion of performing is to invoke the spirit, right? And the spirit comes forth through voice, but also through movement, right? And I think maybe there is an argument of, you know, is there a level of fitness or physical capability that one should have a comprehension of in order to perform effectively? And I like how you mentioned about your dances. You know, it's not necessarily about, you know, being able to pull off certain choreography, but simply the presence of size and confidence there on the stage in the moment really gives. So, I mean, maybe more specifically for someone like yourself, the actual musical act, shall we say, the person invoking in that moment, do you think that there is a need to have some sense of physicality or fitness in the performance?
I would definitely agree that there is. I mean, whether or not you are like a super active person or you like, you know, choose to be going to the gym or being active like that, like performing on stage takes a lot out of you. It is a full cardio workout. And I famously hate cardio. The only time I ever do cardio is when I'm going to the gym with my boyfriend and he's like, we need to do cardio. And I'm like, I guess that is true and a fact. It's also a fact that I don't love doing it. I don't love doing it. But like, yeah, being on stage, just like, especially like performing on stage post like my weight gain 2021, like I, it takes a lot out of me. It really does. I'm a profuse sweater and I have acute asthma. So that already kind of adds another layer to like me having to take a breather in between songs just to, you know, do my bit on the mic of just heavy breathing, you know, and just like, you know, you just watched me throw my body all around the stage and then you're going to watch me also recover from that.
I mean, it's a pretty common thing, I think, to see artists and people are quite shocked at the endurance training that big stage performers often go through. You know, Beyonce famously would run track and field belting, and her father would insist that she kept going for as long as she could to build up that durability because it wasn't just, you're not just going to be a good singer stood in one place. If you're going to be this pop icon, if you're going to be this person dancing and keeping up and doing all this, you have got to train yourself to have the endurance to meet it. The video of Pink, you know, she was laid on her back with a weight, and they got one of the interviewers to like stand like with one foot on the weight and full belt. She was projecting, "Gotta give us a try," and I think a lot of people are just like, "Oh wow," you know, it's quite shocking the prowess involved in things like that, but like it's a skill. It is a developed skill.
Hmm. I think it is also a skill to be able to park and bark effectively because people, you know, of larger size than me are like do also get on stage and are able to captivate an entire crowd and they do not put out as like they don't exert as much energy as I would, which sometimes I wish I could chill a little bit, but it's hard, you know, it's hard for me. It's hard to chill.
But again, even in the park and bark, you know, even though it's not energy being, you know, conveyed through physical movement, it's still energy of conviction. It's selling the stuff. You know, drag
Yeah.
queens talk about this all the time. Like, if you really want to sell a lip sync, like, you know, it's not about physical like splits and tricks and all this kind of stuff. Like, whatever happened to a ballad where you had to make a bitch stand on the spot, serve you the number with just her face? You know, like that is.
That's a lot of what Bjork does. She doesn't really move around a whole lot, like either in stage performances or in music videos. And she's got, well, I mean, you've heard her, and I know you don't like her, but she's got that voice that just is.
No, it's not that I don't like her. It's just her music is not for me, you know?
Mm.
But on the topic of people who like various sizes and skill sets, physically speaking, like that, there is that stereotype that people who are larger or fatter, shall we say, have a stronger voice. And I think that comes from that expectation of opera, right? That there is this larger person belting a note. In your experience, do you find that to be the case?
I've always heard that stereotype. I'm not sure if I mean, I have obviously I've known like fat people to have like powerful voices like in my life, but it's not consistent. And I don't know the science behind that. So if someone who has an opera degree knows has the knowledge, I would love that to be explained to me, whether or not that has any like merit.
Yes, reach out to Toño at the socials, which will be down in the show notes here, or you can skip to the end of the episode to get the socials, and then double all the way back here and listen to the whole thing, because Toño is clearly fabulous, thick and gorgeous, so talented here with us today, which is such a joy. Now, I want to start bringing out a couple of artists, right, that I can kind of conceive in different categories, because I want to unpack a little bit. As a community, we have a tendency to glom onto different people for different reasons, and I want to explore a little bit of that through music, right? So the first kind of category, I would say, are musical artists who gained weight over the course of their careers, and I'm thinking about iconic individuals like Mama Cass, Elvis, even someone like Jarrett Reddick from Bowling for Soup. Do you feel like the community takes on plus-size performers as icons with music to be celebrated, or do you think maybe we tend to look at it in a bit of a basic way and maybe just kind of sexualize that and go, that'll do?
I mean, probably like amongst the community, I think there might be like a tendency to kind of sexualize that, but also at the same time, I feel like when we look at it like generally, like, even from like outside perspective, besides being within the gainer community, sometimes I feel like especially in the case of Elvis, like artists who get fat like by the end of their career, like that is usually, from what I've seen, used as like the butt of the joke. So like their heyday is always described as like when they were able to fit in that tiny little suit, and then the end punchline is died on the toilet eating a peanut butter and banana sandwich, a la Elvis.
Interesting that that was the comment made about Mama Cass as well, that she was found dead with a ham sandwich. And it's interesting because there was a documentary about this, which I've yet to watch, but the cliff note towards the end was that, the coroner is accused of fat phobia because, of course, it's that thing of, well, we've discovered her body. What do we know about the surrounding details of her death? And she was dead, and she was naked, and they'd written in the report, highlighted that she had a ham sandwich next to her. And so that then again becomes part of the joke. Fatty died eating a sandwich. Elvis died eating a sandwich on the toilet. But actually there's a lot of evidence that, very sadly, with Mama Cass, she died due to fat phobia because, of course, throughout the course of her career, weight cycled because she was in the Mamas and the Papas, and I forget the other woman who was in the band, but of course she was always compared to this waif blonde girl, and weight cycled through that. So it's quite interesting that there is a theme that directly ties the death of fat people to food, to tropes that we utilize as an excuse to almost justify their death and treat it as a moral failing. She deserved to die because she was eating a ham sandwich and she was fat, so fat plus sandwich equals dead, and that is tick seal of approval. Like, I'd be curious to ask here, within, maybe more so like the modern music community, do you feel like that there is that same kind of tone of judging people of size, or do you feel like those tropes have started to ease up a little bit?
I definitely think that we're doing a fine start to dismantling a lot of those. I feel like an artist who I love, her name's Samira. She's got that song Freak With You, and she has also the other song that's like, oh, it's like a thick girl anthem, but like the name of it is escaping me.
If you want plus
like,
size
to sell,
making them ugly,
making them ugly as hell. Yeah,
yes.
Love her, and I love that. Not only is she like vocal about it, she is so radical about like what she is doing and saying to try and dismantle all of these things that like about like fat people in the fat community, especially as like an artist and a person showing up on these red carpets. So, I feel like, there's still a long ways to go. And especially depending on what the fan base is also. I sometimes I feel like obviously there is still a stigma against these fat performers, but sometimes I feel like the drag community gives a little bit more thought to the way that we treat our fat performers, or the performers that have started out skinny and then gained weight. I feel like Tatiana and Jinx Monsoon are two really good examples. They've really been able to still showcase their art, and while they have expressed some of the insecurity about what the public might think of their body, I do I do the thing you're not supposed to do, and I look in the Instagram Reels comments and the TikTok comments, and you do have some negativity in there, but there's also people in there that are just like, girl, you are still gorgeous and beautiful, and you would be 50 pounds heavier or 50 pounds lighter. Like, it doesn't matter. You are gorgeous.
No, I absolutely agree. And, it's interesting. Drag specifically is that form of artistry where it is presentation of gender, of course, but also of size, because padding is a key element,
Proportionizing.
proportionizing breastplates and clothing to create shapes. It's quite incredible the depth and texture almost that can be created through size and padding and all those different things. So I agree. I think there's a beautiful sense in modernity, at least, of the potential of size. I still think there's an expectation of, oh well, you're the big girl, you have to prove yourself a little bit. We see that with tropes like with Ginger Minge, with Eureka, with Silky Nutmeg. Girl, insert a fat drag queen here. Like, there is still an expectation that she must present as perfect. I don't think there's a lot of space for messiness that a lot of slender queens get away with, but maybe that's a conversation on drag more specifically. There are other plus size artists worth considering, and I think these are more people who, I think for the duration of their careers, have been larger. People like Beth Ditto, Aretha Franklin, certainly Jack Black, Lottie B, Yokelust, and the Produce Pandas. Within the broader zeitgeist, talking about music, do you feel like, as much as there's maybe more of an acceptance of largeness, do you feel like the zeitgeist maybe limits the number of seats at the table that we can have as plus size people?
I definitely think there is a history of that, but I feel like TikTok definitely this is one of the things that TikTok has helped within the music community, like, just because like being able to kind of advertise your music on that platform, it's a platform where kind of anybody can rise up to the top, or at least to the mid. And I feel like that kind of lets more people that look the same through. So in that sense, again, I think we are starting to like let more people in, but there is definitely a history, whether it's like pertaining to fat bodies, pertaining to people of color, that there could only be like the one, but I think people are getting tired of just having one thing to look up to and listen to, and they're wanting options. They want more options.
And certainly I think, as we often explore in the broader sense of thickness, if you want a seat at the table, I think we're still at a stage where you should not be waiting for the seat, and you certainly shouldn't be waiting for someone to pull the chair out for you to seat you graciously. You need to go up to that table with something you have hand sawn yourself with your own little pull-out chair, and you need to belly up and bring what you bring to the table. Tim, I'd be curious to ask you, because as you say, your musical tastes transcend, a lot of decades, a lot of genres. Do you feel like in artistry, through what you've observed, do you feel like you've seen a shift in the approach to science over the years?
No, not really. I mean, I can feel like, or I feel like the same argument that they're making today was the same one they were making in the 90s. And, it's a never ending loop. It's like, no matter what, you're always going to have that come along, because like we've talked many times on many other episodes about the industries that are hyper focused on creating these perfect icons that the masses can look up to and spend all their money on. It's the same damn thing.
I'd be curious to ask you this, because I think, and again, maybe as far as local or more accessible artistry, you could say, like maybe there's more we can do on an individual level to uplift our local performers, of course. On a macro scale, in terms of, shifting the zeitgeist, do you feel like there are individual actions that more of us could make that would make things a little bit easier?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I always like to introduce like new things like into my life, especially when it comes to things like music or like the content that I consume. But I that's me like trying to like every day trying to make the active choice to, diversify the things that I'm consuming. So that's just something you always have to be like aware of and think about, which obviously could take a while. It's not like a one and done thing. But that's definitely something to think about is just like what media are you consuming, and does it all look the same? Is there something that you can do just to kind of broaden your mind?
And maybe I glossed over a little bit before where I said, obviously, we all know what we need to do to support our local artists, but let me ask you here officially, Toño, what do the people need to do to be more supportive of you and other plus-size, thickums, delicious, gorgeous artists?
I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to give the bitch $1. I've been doing like on top of doing like my music gigs, I've been doing a lot more drag gigs, and every time someone hands me $1, I'm like, thank you for not giving this dollar to a twink. But give the dollar to the twink if you want to, but I'm here. Please and thank you. But yeah, just like that, and like just watch what you say. Sometimes some people will say something, maybe their own personal views on their own weight, but it's still I'm just like, if that's what you think about yourself, what do you think about me? Like I'm like 3 of you, and I'm not even that large. Like,
Oh, you said you wanted to lose weight. Thank you for telling me that you do not want to look like me. Like, I understand you're on a whatever journey, but when people qualify things, and it's always those innocuous comments where it's like, I just want to be healthy.
I love hitting them with like when someone's telling me about like, oh yeah, no, I really struggle with like losing weight and I just feel like gross. I'm like, oh yeah, no, I get that. That sucks. I gained like 30 pounds over the pandemic and I feel hotter than ever. I'm just like, I hear you and I do understand where you're coming from. Here's where I am. Here's where I'm coming from.
Yeah,
We are not coming from the same place.
we're not coming from the same place. I feel so sad for you that you've gained weight and you feel not great. Why do you feel that is? You
Can you
know?
explain that to me, to my face?
Yeah, spell that out for me, because clearly I'm coming from a place of joy, so therefore I feel great. So maybe if you're approaching your weight gain from a negative perspective, maybe it was never about fat to begin with. Maybe you just don't like yourself, and maybe you need to do some unpacking there, my love. Which also, that is a note for gainers. That is a note for every single fat-assed one of you. You can gain 1,000 pounds. I don't give a shit. Neither does your mental health. You need to do the mental work to be good in your spirit. Otherwise, you are never going to be satisfied with this journey, boo-boo. That is a note for all of us. Thank you.
That part.
Now listen, I want to ask something controversial here, girl. Artists who lose weight. And we can look at our current Ozempic trends. There are a great many of them. Kelly Clarkson, Adele, Lana Del Rey. And yes, we're having this conversation right here, right now, about upping ourselves and owning our size and loving all this and all of that gorgeousness, and I think that's very pertinent, very, very important. But also, people do lose weight, and people lose weight for a myriad of reasons. And there's a conversation in the zeitgeist around we have these icons who are larger and we love them because they're talented and they're large and they're fantastic, and then they lose weight and it can cause us to feel a certain type of way. And I just want to ping here to you quickly, like, is that something that you resonate with? How do you feel when you see that happening?
My immediate reaction is just kind of like sometimes I that one meme that was going around that was like, don't hurt my friends, and it was someone fighting off and it was like someone trying to stop an Ozempic package going to the bear flag. I'll send it to him if you don't know. I'll send it to you because it's like I am that unironically sometimes, but then also like like you said, people lose weight for a variety of reasons, and not everybody, not everyone is striving for what we strive for. Some people just like want to live, and then their body does what their body does. You know, their body gains the weight, their body loses the weight, and not everybody is entirely focused on that. So I always try to pay attention to not only the way that the public is framing their weight loss, because a lot of people can jump to really quick and just kind of rude conclusions. And I always, you know, after the initial, like, you won't come from my family meme that pops into my mind, I always try to be mindful of like people's own journeys and the way that they see their own bodies. But, you know, that they also have a part in the way that, you know, people are perceiving this weight loss. So, you know, there is a difference between an artist that just happens to lose the weight versus someone who is on their TikTok, on their Instagram, posting stuff like, I was disgusting before, I looked so ugly. Like, you know, there's a really big difference in just like, you know, losing weight versus being internally and externally fat phobic.
No, 100%. I mean, Tim, what are your thoughts on that? When you
Well, I actually do remember that meme, because I remember there
Yes.
was something that came out, and I think I came across it on the Instagram stories, and it was last year around Pride, and it was an Ozempic ad targeted at Pride, and I was like, okay, we already have enough body issues. Like, gay men are a fucking wreck when it comes to body issues. Like, we are basket cases. So, do we really need to add another thing into that mix? Because there are gay men out there who have so many problems with their self-image that they are drowning themselves in drugs, alcohol, Christ only knows what else. And now you want to throw this on top of it. I was disgusted. I was like, you are using your product, which is intended for people who actually have diabetes, who actually already have the diagnosed disease of diabetes.
That
You're
part.
giving it to people who do not have a diagnosis of diabetes. You're giving them diabetes by giving them the Ozempic, because it is possible to come off of insulin. It is. It's not like once you're on it for the rest of your life, but it's not exactly easy to titrate yourself off of it either, especially after your pancreas has gotten used to it coming from an outside source. Your pancreas is going to be like, oh, I can take a break. It's going to be slow. And if you go off the Ozempic at some point, 10 bucks says you're going to gain all that weight back. So
easiest $10 ever made. Every stat report shows that, you know, diet does not work long term, because the moment you come off the diet or the intercession of the drug or whatever it is, you put the weight back on, because obviously that was the thing that was causing you to lose weight in the first place. But no diet or drug is designed to be stayed on your entire life, because it would ruin your body to do so. Like, people think Ozempic just makes the fat melt off your body. Nah, bitch, it goes in and it fucking nukes your gut. It changes your biome. It changes aspects of your genetic to function like that, you know? Like, you don't lose the weight because your body goes, oh, I'll let go of these fat cells now. No, it's things are
well,
happening.
it slows down gastric peristalsis, which is just the fancy word for like your gastric in, tract moving. It slows it way down. So it slows the emptying of your stomach. It slows your digestive tract. Most likely is going to give you constipation because it's slowing everything down. My father was put on it. Didn't think that that was going to happen. My father was put on it. He listened to a doctor. He's my dad. He wants to live longer. I kept my mouth shut, but he's nearly unrecognizable at this point because he's lost so much weight. And he told me, oh, you know, for the first 3 days that I was on this, I just didn't eat. And I was like, oh, that sounds healthy. Let's just starve ourselves for 72 hours. Sure. But that's what the drug does. You know, it makes you not want to consume food. And then it's burning off, you know, because the body's going to immediately go to stored energy when it runs out of consumable food. It's going to go to the fat where all the lipids and vitamins are stored, and that's what it's going to use as fuel. That's why you uh, lose weight so dramatically.
Yeah. And of course, you then get what they're calling Ozempic face. Baby, it's not Ozempic face. It's gaunt, is what that is. It's sallow. Okay? This is what happens to anybody who rapidly loses weight. And when people are like, oh, but it's taken rid of the texture in my... Because guess what, baby? That was fat. That was fat that made your cheeks plump and gorgeous, that kept your skin nice and taut. Oh, that nice juicy ass I had, it's now dimpled and straight. Yeah, baby, because that was fat. We
See,
actually are
the
so
part.
on board with the idea of fat and how it looks good, so long as it's done in one particular way on a particular body type. Like, it's just, we're
Well,
so,
that's the part that drives me particularly crazy because there is this obsession about the Brazilian butt lift, and that's about putting fat into your butt and your hips, and giving you that hourglass shape and all that shit. So you go on the Ozempic to lose all your body fat. Now you're just a wafer skeleton. So they got to pump fat into your ass to
yeah.
give you one. So you got this big old donkey butt. You got probably them huge titties because maybe they put a few in there too. And now you got this face that you got. Now they got to do more because now you've got so many lines and crevices and cracks because you lost all the collagen in your face.
BBL Drizzy. Sorry, that was I. I heard
Oh,
BBL and that beat came into my noggin.
who's the one that did the trendy song? Oh, whoa, 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 Ozempic, you didn't do that alone. Ozempic. Like, that was,
Well, that was part of the commercial.
Oh God, ew.
no, that was a person did that as a meme. That wasn't part
No,
of
that was actually the commercial though. Like the commercial that aired in the United States for Ozempic had that song. They took it's magic and rewrote it into Ozempic. They do this
Not
shit all the
them.
time over here.
Not them ruining one of my favorite Selena Gomez songs.
This is
Wow.
absolutely mad. Anyways, plot twist. Ozempic's terrible. Please don't do it, y'all.
Yeah,
Like,
they do that all, honey. They do that all the time over
unless
here.
you
They will
have
take a song
to.
and repurpose it for something else.
But listen, outside of our Ozempic diatribe, we were asking you, Tono, about, what does it do for you when you see musical artists that are thick, that you look up to, lose the weight? And I'd like to know your perspective on this, right? Like, how should we perhaps be approaching individuals who lose weight in terms of maintaining a sense of, maybe not, like, you don't have to idolize people, like if it changes how you feel about them, like that's up to you, but like in terms of like respecting someone's choice, and in terms of how we as people who are looking for fat icons, shall we say, how do we process that and move forward?
I don't think there's anything wrong with looking up to someone who kind of represents what you are, what you feel like. And then when that attribute goes away, if it can go away, like something like fatness, that what you gain from that, from looking up to that, that's still, it doesn't have to be lost, right? Like I said before, like definitely kind of pay attention to how they're framing the weight loss and like how they're going about with that. But at the end of the day, if you see, like for me, if I was looking up to, let's say, Harvey Guillen, if I'm looking up to a fat Latino and then, he suddenly loses the weight, it's like, well, Harvey Guillen, I still like, also, this is a hypothetical. This is not happening. This is the first one that came to mind. Harvey Guillen loved you and your fat, still look up to you because you're Latino. But, if you're not going to be the cool fat Latino in the media, I could be the cool fat Latino in the media. So at the end of the day, just be, if you don't see yourself anymore, be that. Be that presence and own it.
Also, Harvey Guillen, if for Christ knows what reason you are listening to this podcast, you need to know I love you. I think you are so gorgeous. I think you're so talented. And you are welcome to come and join us on Thicc Radio anytime you'd like, baby. You just write to us at thiccradio@gmail.com. We will make room for you.
Harvey Guillen, if you're free on Saturday, I'm free on Saturday. Harvey Guillen, if you're free on Saturday, I'm free.
Is that the guy from What We Do in the Shadows?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
The beautiful, thick Latina boy from What We Do in the Shadows. He's just gorgeous.
Oh, he's so cute. One time I had an ex, and this is a big red flag. One time I had an ex, and like that was our favorite show to watch together. And we looked at Guillermo and Nandor. We were like, oh my God, it's us. Oh my God. Not cute. If you ever look at Guillermo and Nandor with your partner and you're like, oh my God, that's us, run. Especially if you're Guillermo.
Shake my damn head. But then the guy that plays Andor is so tall and so furry, and he's a little thickums as well, that I'm just like, oh my God.
That part.
Also, Matt Berry. And
Oh,
also,
who plays the other one? Oh,
even the woman who plays Nadja, she's British. I wouldn't say she's thick, but certainly I'd say she's certainly not thin. She's like I would
mhm.
argue an average sized
I
woman.
remember her looking kind of curvy.
Yeah, do you know like
Yeah.
actually everyone bar the guy
But
that plays
Taika Waititi, he's the only really skinny one.
well he's not one of the main ones in it. He's sort
Oh,
of a
he's not?
thing.
He's in the movie. Yeah.
He's in the
Oh, I
movie.
don't know. I never watched it. So I've only seen like clips here and
But
there.
it's a good show. It's a very enjoyable show.
I used to have a crush on a fat actor that neither of you will have heard of because he's dead. And before he was dead, he was
What
only like
what Orson
sort of,
Welles?
huh?
Orson Welles.
No, 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 not that old. His name was Tony Longo, and he was an actor during like the late 80s, most of the 90s. I think he died not too long ago, actually, but he was fat the entire time.
Oh, just Googled. Yep. Ooh.
Yeah, he was a hottie.
Oh, he's from
All
New
right, hold on.
Jersey.
Yeah, he
Going
was a
Ooh.
hottie.
going to Google Tony Longo. Oh dang. Hello.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you
Yeah, he was a
for that.
sexy man. It's too bad he's no longer with us, but yeah, he was fat until the day he died. I know that.
God damn. Well, we do have a listener question actually, Tono.
Ooh.
There
Okay.
was a YouTuber years ago during the original YouTube boom, someone who went by the name DJ Gainerology, who produced raps that was centered around gaining. Are you familiar with this?
And no, I think I've heard. I think I've heard you guys talk about him before, but I'm not
I've tried to
familiar.
track him down and I can't find him. He used to put him out on YouTube, and I think that they were mostly unlisted. And
Hmm.
I think if I were to hazard a guess, he was using the software that came with the iMac, that music studio. I think that's the software he was using.
Oh, GarageBand.
Because I had one of them Macs that had the dome with the screen that stuck out the top of it, and that was what was loaded onto that computer. And I had played around with it, and then I was listening to his stuff. I'm like, oh, I think he uses GarageBand to do this. You know, I wouldn't say that they would win any awards, but they were definitely like it was kind of cool to hear a rap song about gainers, about this because he would position himself as like I guess the encourager, the Twinkie, always going after the big boys and rapping about how much like what he wanted to do to them and all that. And I was like, that's pretty cool. I mean, I haven't heard that in music before, so
So kind of like a Tom Goss, Catswell kind of.
yeah. It's kind of like, do you remember Johnny McGovern's old stuff? Like,
Oh
do you
yeah.
remember Hey Dude?
Go down to
Yes.
Devil Town.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, not as polished, obviously, because he was using like very primitive software. But
Yeah.
it was. I would compare it to Johnny McGovern.
Okay. Well, that's a good question. Like, Tuna, do you feel like there are opportunities for you to like work elements of gaining and fetishism into your music, or is that a bit gauche?
I mean, it depends on the song topic. Like, obviously, I've had a couple songs. I've had Triple XL and Triple XL Supersize Mix. Triple XL was a single that I released in like 2021. That was definitely centered around like wanting to like fuck big dudes, and I also advertised it as a song like for big dudes and anyone with big dick energy. So like those are like two themes of the song. So that way, it's an inclusive anthem, and also if you don't want it to be about being thick, you can have it be about having big dick energy. And then whereas the supersize mix, I like, I kept the hook the same, but I changed my first verse to be more about like me being larger now as opposed to like seeking out someone larger. So it really it depends on the song, but also anytime that I get the opportunity to just mention thick bitches and wanting thick bitches, I'll throw in a bar about that. So yeah, it just depends. And also I like to, if I'm gonna be blue like that, I want to go like the Cupcake route, because like when you listen to Cupcake's music, yes, at first like a lot of it is super like pretty explicit, but she is one of the smartest lyricists to ever come out of the rap game, and I mean that like wholeheartedly. Like one of the reasons I listen to Cupcake so often is because it's like every other time I listen to one of her songs, it's like something new pops out. And so not only are you getting like these super raunchy bars. They're you really have to like think about them in order to get like all of the layers to it. So and I like to play with a lot of that. So if I'm gonna go there, then we're gonna go there, but creatively.
I need to ask, what is coming next for you down the pipeline, and what is the next big thing you are wanting for the future?
Oh, I'm working on a lot of stuff right now. There is my frequent collaborator and favorite twink in the world, Yuck. We are working on our first like official Toño album. We've had some mixtapes in the past, and you know, it's I would assume that he definitely wants me to be a lot quicker with it, but if we're working on an album, it's going to take a minute. There's that. I have some solo stuff on the back burner, but it's definitely taking a backseat to that. And then my other project that I'm working on with my partner, who goes by The Water Supply, we started a little duo called Cachorro, and we're working on like pop covers, like pop goes punk covers. I think by the time this comes out, our cover of Teenage Dream will already have been released, but that's something you can look forward to. I'm also opening up for another up and coming dance pop, hyper pop twink, Gregory Dillon, over in Portland. But I think by the time this comes out, that will have already happened. But yeah, what I'm wanting is just like more, more. I love performing live. So that I feel like I just want more of that in my life, being able to just like showcase my art, be fat and hot on stage. So if you live in the Portland metro area or on the West Coast, keep an eye out for that.
That's fantastic. And that's actually a great opportunity. You're talking about all these things that, depending on the timing of the episode, maybe it's out, maybe it's coming. But for the people who are needing that Toño fix, who are looking for a bit of thick, juicy gorgeousness, where can they find all of your music online?
You can find me on all major streaming platforms under Toño. So that is Toño. That's the N with the squiggle. But the tilde is silent when you say it out loud. So it's just Toño. And the reason for that is one time I made a joke at that joke that the tilde was silent on like my first live show, and one guy in the front row died. So I like laughing. So I have never gotten rid of the bit since. And also I love watching white people try to say my name, and it's like, no, you're right, but you're wrong. Psych. Yeah, under Toño. You can also follow me at Toño the Rapper on everything. If you're a civilian, that's where you can follow me. If you're a little freak, you can find me at Stoner Belly.
Well, listen, everyone, I think that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode here on Thicc Radio. Please remember to like and subscribe, rate us 5 stars, and leave us a good review. Now, if you liked this episode, the podcast, or just us in general, please share it with your friends and encourage them to tune in. You can find me on Instagram and BlueSky at stannnum.
And you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and TikTok at ThiccyMouse. You can also look us up on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Thicc Radio, or at our website at podpage.com/Thicc Radio. If you want to submit a voice note or become a financial supporter of the show, you can find the links in the show notes, and you can always write to us at thethiccradio@gmail.com. So until next time, bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Stay thick.
Let's talk about it.
Thicc Radio is a Patreon and Enter app podcast produced by Stannnum and Thiccy Mouse.
Mixed and mastered by Stannnum.
Our artwork is provided by Lokitu.
Our theme song is provided by Spotify.